Regular meeting of April 13, 2009. At this point, I'd like everybody to stand, please, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. The first item on the agenda is the minutes of the public meetings of February 23rd, March 5th, March 9, and March 23rd.
Will it be approved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hold a second. We had tabled this the last time. Sorry. We had tabled this the last time so that, Tom, I think you were going to come up with a draft of the March.
Yeah, actually, the Township Secretary recirculated those minutes that I had brought up, and I believe the minutes from your meeting. Did you redo his too?
The March night, I said, give me a copy of the tape, and I'll do a draft for circulation. Yeah. That's not completed as yet.
Okay.
I will amend the motion to accept the other two and not the one.
Well, so February 23rd, March 5th, and March 23rd, I believe, are okay. You're
I'm still working on March 9th.
Okay.
So my motion is all of them except the March 9th.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is the notice of executive meetings. An executive meeting was held in the Powys Caucus Room in the Township Building on March 30, 2009, where real estate litigation and personnel matters were discussed. All commissioners were present except Commissioner Paolino. An executive meeting was also held in the Powys Caucus Room in the Township prior to the public meeting on April 13, 2009, where real estate litigation and personnel matters were discussed. All commissioners were present except Commissioner Paolino. Next is the announcement of the third Anthony Days of Wayne celebration. Somebody here to address that?
Yeah, he's outside. Art Hotel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Here.
It's a real pleasure to be with you again this evening.
Likewise.
I'm Art Hartel. I'm here on behalf of the Wayne Business Association to invite you to celebrate with us the Mad Anthony Days of Wayne. It's a 3-day celebration beginning on May 1st and going May 1st, May 2nd, and May 3rd. And on that day, we celebrate not the founder of our town, but the person for whom our town has been named, Anthony Wayne. Now, on Friday night, we're going to turn the Saturday Club into the old Spread Eagle Tavern. Now, you know the Spread Eagle Tavern sat right here on Lancaster Pike, which was the first major turnpike in the whole country, and it was paved in 1794, and the tavern sat there. So we're going to have plenty of carriage trade coming that evening, and you're all invited. Now, if you want to go to that event, stop in at the antique store and buy some tickets there for the event. We will have a period-perfect dinner, and we will have entertainment in the form of a dinner theater. I will act as the proprietor of the Spread Eagle Tavern, and the precious Pat will be my hostess. Now, on Saturday, we will have some other events. We will have, believe it or not, a puppy and dog walk, starting at Braxton's and ending at the Wayne Art Center. And there, people can come and have the portraits of their dogs done. So join us for that. That will be about midday that we'll do that event. On Sunday, we will have a memorial service for Anthony Wayne at the graveside at St. David's Church in Radnor. Now that's where Anthony Wayne and his entire family has been buried. So we welcome you to come there and be part of that celebration. Now for the whole event, you can go to www.wayneart.org MadAnthonyDaysOfWayne.com. Everything today is .com. Back in my days, there was no .com. We were lucky we had a turnpike that somebody would flip up and down. So, we welcome you all to spend some days with us celebrating the township. This is the historic town of Wayne. And we've had some people who've helped us to get our event on. The antique store, which is in the center of Wayne. If you have hardware needs, you got to do it best. It's the place where we all go to have our wagons repaired. And if you want your carriages cleaned up absolutely perfectly, you go down to the car wash at the corner of Conestoga and Lancaster Pike. And there you can get your carriages all nicely done so that you can come in and join us for dinner in a nice, brand, clean carriage. The dinner again, Friday night. Period perfect in terms of the dinner that we're going to have. And the wine, last year, Glenn Morgan provided the wine for the dinner. It was absolutely spectacular. And they will do it again this year. And so I welcome all of you to spend part of the weekend of May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd with us. Did I mention there will be sidewalk sales on Saturday in downtown Wayne? So there's lots of reasons to celebrate. You're all welcome. And celebrate the wonderful life that we have in the historic village of Wayne. Thank you very much.
Thanks, General.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation regarding 2009 Days of Remembrance. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the Holocaust was the state-sponsored systematic persecution and annihilation of European Jewry by the Nazi Germany and its collaborators between 1933 and 1945. Jews were the primary victims. 6 million were murdered. Gypsies, the handicapped, and Poles were also targeted for destruction or decimation for racial, ethnic, or national reasons. Millions more, including homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Soviet prisoners of war, and political dissidents, also suffered grievous oppression and death under Nazi tyranny. Whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments, whereas we, the people of the Township of Radnor, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny, and whereas we, the people of the Township of Radnor, should actively rededicate ourselves to the principles of individual freedom in a just society, and whereas the days of remembrance have been set aside for the people of the Township of Radnor to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as to reflect on the need for respect of all peoples. Whereas pursuant to an act of Congress, the United States Holocaust Memorial Council designates the days of remembrance of the victims of the Holocaust to be Sunday, April 19 through Sunday, April 26, 2009. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township does hereby proclaim the week of Sunday, April 19 through Sunday, April 26, 2009 as days of remembrance in memory of the victims of the Holocaust and in honor of the survivors, as well as the rescuers, the liberators, and further proclaim that we, as citizens of Radnor Township, should strive to overcome intolerance and indifference through learning and remembrance.
Move the approval of the proclamation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the introduction of a new library director.
My name is George Strimmel. I am here as the executive, not the executive director, that's the role I play. In this case, as the president of the Board of Trustees of the Memorial Library. This is National Library Week, and after a year's search of with a committee that has been looking literally around the world and for over 100 applicants, led by the wife of that fellow that was just in here doing the Mad Anthony Days of Wayne, Pat Hartel, who was right there taking pictures and also had been the head of our search committee. I would like to introduce to all of you and to our community the new executive director. I believe you have been given her a resume of her very impressive 35 years in libraries, both academic and public, and I think she is particularly well suited as we move forward on a splendid basis here in Radnor and in our library. And so I introduce Kathleen Mulroy, to all of you, and if she wanted to say a word or two, she can.
First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to meet all of you in this very formal setting. I met a few of you, I think Mr. Spingler, at a party recently. But again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I really look forward to helping this community achieve the library that it well deserves.
Thank you for being
And
here.
thank all of you. Thanks.
Lots of luck to you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the committee reports, community development.
We have a certificate of appropriateness for M.C. McNichol to construct a new single dwelling at 215 West Wayne Avenue, and I'll move the approval.
Second.
Is there anybody here for public comment? Please.
Good evening. I'm Jim Schneller. I live in St. David's, and I had a number of comments at the zoning hearing board's meeting on this matter a month ago approximately, where I was
We're considering the certificate of appropriateness. The zoning hearing board is already done.
I can keep it very brief.
Just keep it to the certificate of appropriateness, be great.
I was under a bit of pressure at the zoning meeting to establish my standing, and there was much discussion, and I'll leave it at that. My comment is rather broad but basic. The zoning hearing board gave what could be understood, and it is what led up to this action, gave what could be viewed as a extremely partial or biased adjudication of a very large facet of this application, and that is they refused at my request to take an investigative look to set a second hearing at what led up to community development's failure to stop demolition and 2 or 3 events of that nature, which have made a total empty statute out of our HARB statute. Everyone knows our HARB statute, of course, is not the strongest in the world. However, considering the event that we just experienced concerning our former township manager and the fact that community development was under his auspices, if I could respectfully raise the fact that there have been now 8 or 9 similar type events which raise a large question mark. And because of the number of residents, to my knowledge, that have written to law enforcement arms or investigative arms of various...
Well, Jim, none of that's on the agenda. We're talking about the certificate of appropriateness. Just this one item. If you want to seek a public speaking, you can talk all about that.
Is this purely design?
Pardon me? This is design, yeah, the certificate of appropriateness.
Is this from the HARB? Or
The HARB.
Correct, for the HARB.
It's just the HARB.
That's why I'm speaking of the HARB issue. I think once that this document is approved by the board, a threshold is going to have been passed. I don't think it's time because...
You don't think this is an appropriate building for this lot? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that the HARB statute's been transgressed, and because it's a HARB-related certificate, they're intertwined. This is the last chance for me to address the board and to get the matter out on the table. I think that that community development has allowed a demolition, and that this should be tabled pending any investigation of and including the forensic investigation that is feasibly possible.
Well, Jim, they demolished the building because they said it was a hazard, and that was their determination, and we support them on that. And the HARB has reviewed, I guess, what the new building's going to look like, and we're here to prove that tonight.
Well, HARB had a lot of questions.
I know, but they're recommending approval. They reviewed it and they're recommending approval right here.
And I strongly ask it not be done. I think it's against the grain of the entire township, and
Why do you, but if the HARB approved it and agreed with it, why do you think it's against the grain? I'm just curious.
He's saying the
Because-
building should
well,
not be torn down.
I didn't want to come out and say it, but
already been torn down.
I
the
know.
contention, and the contention came out fairly expressly at the zoning hearing board meeting, is the fact that the applicant never produced any proof of this so-called termite infestation. Community development never produced a document or anything stating that anything had been
Community
given to
development
them.
stated at a public meeting that they went and inspected the building and they considered it as a hazard and they issued the permit. That's it. So,
And it went on and on. The refuse was hauled away faster than you could tie a pair of shoes, which is not usually the case. And this sort of thing, although it's of record in the zoning hearing board, has to come to a head, and perhaps this sort of thing won't be recurring in our new leaf, but I'd
Thanks.
ask that it be tabled.
appreciate your discussion.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on this matter?
Move this
Okay.
out.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
The second one is a certificate of appropriateness, which they're recommending for an addition of a mudroom and deck at the rear of their home of 205 Midland Avenue for Ray and Lisa Lockhart, and I'll move the approval.
Second.
Anybody in the public wish to comment on this? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed.
The next is to set a public hearing regarding off-premises sign. What day do we pick for that?
May 26th.
At what time? At a regular meeting?
It'll be part of your regular agenda.
I'll
then.
move we set the public hearing for off-premises signs for May 26th.
All those, second?
Second. John, does that give us enough, does that give us enough time to get it in under that deadline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be advertised twice before then. If it's adopted that night, then you have the 30-day effective date, which puts us into the end of June, and that's time. We're under the 6-month guideline by adopting it that night.
So you want to have the public hearing and adoption the same night?
Yes.
Because what we've normally done in the past is have the public hearing and then have the adoption the following meeting. Can we do that the same night?
No. No. You're going to need to, I'm going to advertise it for public hearing and enactment that night under the planning code.
Okay.
There's a procedure to do it that way. It's the only way we can do it within the 6-month time frame that we're
That's fine.
dealing with.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's it under community development.
Next, finance and audit.
We have a schedule of bills payable. I have one question, and then Amy, I guess you have an issue you've brought to our attention. There's an item on here for the Villanova Conference Center from an October '08 meeting. My question is twofold. What was it used for? Because we have lots of rooms here we could have used, and why did it take 6 months for it to come through?
It's my understanding that the township manager utilized a room there for an off-site meeting, and the reason that it just came to our attention is that it was obviously misplaced because Villanova sent us a past due notice, so we took care of it.
Do you want to discuss the item, or you want me to raise it? Never mind, I've been advised of new information. So with that being said, I move the introduction of the bills payable, and just again to restate what the item says. It says, these bills have been approved by the respective department head, verified and processed by the finance department, and are within total 2009 budgetary limits as imposed by the Board of Commissioners at its December 15th, 2008 stated meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anything else on finance and audit? Looks like that's it. Library? Nothing?
Nothing on the library, sorry.
Personnel administration? That would be,
Yeah, it's me. We have a couple items. The first is a reminder of the primary election day on Tuesday, May 19th. Please do your civic duty and get out to vote on that day. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2009-20. This is the appointment of a consultant to assist the township manager search. The resolution is for engaging the services of Local Government Management Services, LLC, to provide assistance to our township manager and staff and the board in locating and searching for a new manager. The cost of this is capped at $8,000.
Move the approval?
Second?
I think we ought to have a little bit of discussion on that, because I think most folks will react to the rather low cost involved. And I think one of the reasons, as I understand it, that we are paying only $8,000 is that John Granger's going to play an active role in helping manage and run that process in addition to this consultant. And that's one of the reasons that our search is costing a rather modest amount of money. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes.
Thank you.
any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Next on the agenda is Resolution 2009-21. This is a resolution to hire a forensic auditor to conduct the investigation concerning the activities of the township manager. This resolution is to authorize our solicitor, Grimm, Bean and Thatcher, to retain Margolis and Company to provide these forensic and investigative accounting services on behalf of the township. The fee for this service is not to exceed $15,000.
Move the approval?
Any discussion?
I have a comment, and I'd like the approval to be subject to this. If you read the engagement letter from the forensic accounting firm, it was unclear to me whether or not certain services that in our discussion with them were represented as being included. And in particular, it was what I will describe as a sort of computer diagnostics forensic accounting program where they would run data through it and develop a sort of a map as if there was something else that we needed to look at in more detail. And I thought the way the engagement letter was worded was that it could be interpreted that that was not included as part of the price. So, John Rice, I'd ask you to confirm that that computer service is part of what they're providing to us before we actually formally finalize that. And if it is, I'm fine with it. But again, I want to be 100% certain that that is part of it, because that is one of the reasons that I felt that these guys were the best qualified folks to select.
Oh, I mean, Kevin and I had talked about that before the meeting. I'll clarify that with Mark Always. Tried to reach them today to clarify it. Didn't hear back from them, but if the board's comfortable moving forward with that proviso, I'll clarify exactly what they're going to do in terms of their computer software and retention of any other computers specialist under this contract.
I'll move the approval of the resolution condition on the solicitor having a clarification that there will be some computer software investigation.
Second.
Is that okay with you, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. All those in any public comment on this before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nothing further under Personnel Administration.
Parks and Recreation?
Yes, several things on the agenda tonight. First is the announcement of the summer program registration kickoff on Monday, May 4th. Monday, May 4th at the Radnor Township Park and Recreation Office, we're having a kickoff for the summer 2009 events. It's from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., extended hours basically all day. Join us as the summer program and camp registration kicks off. Visit the offices of the Township Park and Recreation. We'll answer all your questions about this summer. As everyone knows, we have an extensive amount of camps and activities for children, adults, senior citizens, and we're going to kick it all off on May 4th. Any questions can be answered right here by our staff on Park and Recreation. Next thing is the announcement of the Arbor Day celebration on Friday, April 24th at Chanticleer. Celebrate Arbor Day 2009 with Radnor Township Park and Rec at Chanticleer Garden, Friday, April 24th at 10 a.m. If there's rain, the ceremony will move indoors. But come join all of Radnor and the students of Agnes Irwin as we celebrate being named a 2009 Tree City USA. 17 years in a row, Radnor has received this national recognition. In order to become a Tree City, a township must meet 4 standards: a tree board, tree care ordinance, comprehensive community forestry program, and an Arbor Day observance. The scheduled events, we're going to have a tree planting. Tree is generously donated by Chanticleer. The Tree City recognition from Tree City USA, and how to plant a tree demonstration courtesy of the Chanticleer Garden. I've been to it many times. Nice event. Learn about trees, how they're planted. Kids get involved, students, and I highly recommend anybody who can make it. April 24th, 2009 at 10 a.m. Next is the authorization to enter an agreement with Brandywine Realty Trust to use the parking facilities for the Radnor Memorial Day Parade. Tom or John, do you have a formal document that, is it a contract? Is it I don't have it here.
It's a contract.
Right,
It's the same one that's been used for the last several years.
I mean, essentially, it's an agreement. On Memorial Day, we have a parade that starts at the parking lot across here at 130 Radnor Chester Road behind the 555 building, and they let us use their parking to put all our cars, and we can stage from there and set up the whole parking, and all we're required to do is sign an agreement with them. It doesn't cost us anything, and they're great neighbors, Brandywine Trust, and we're going to move that into that agreement. So do we need to make a motion to do this?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, next is the authorization to enter an agreement with Mainline Street Festival Management for the Mainline Jazz and Food Festival. This is a organization that we entered an agreement with for the Mainline Jazz and Food Festival, which is, Tom, when's the date on that? Sorry.
June 13th.
June 13th?
Right.
3 to 7.
All right, and these guys do exactly what for us? The management, Main Street Festival Management?
Proposal is Township provides personnel in-kind services up to a value of $2,300. They reimburse anything above it up to a maximum of $2,000. They also indemnify and hold harmless the township for any incidents that might occur.
Right, and these are the people that are hosting the Mainline Jazz and Food Festival,
Yes.
which has become a signature down in Wayne in the spring. Really nice event that a lot of the residents enjoy, and even residents from outside the township have been known to come by and see. And this is the organization that puts it together, so we need to enter an agreement with them. What is the cost? Did you say $2,300?
Yes.
From our perspective?
Yes.
Okay. Then I guess this takes a motion as well, so moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
It's a great day. Hope people can make it, and with any luck, we get some nice weather. A lot of good food and music up there in downtown Wayne. That's it for Park and Rec tonight. Thank you.
Public Health?
No report?
Public Safety?
There's one item on the agenda, and that is the Intermunicipal Cooperation Agreement regarding the 2009 Recovery Act Burn Justice Assistance Grant, or JAG program. Anybody from staff going to cover this?
Yes, sir. It's pretty much an agreement that we're going to spend the money allocated us through the county. At this point, we're looking at 5 in-car cameras for a total cost of $21,790, and $21,450. The grant are going to cover those costs.
So this comes from the JAG program through to us, so it's a funding mechanism.
That's correct. It's a grant given through the county, dispersed to the different different townships and boroughs within the county. Just an agreement that you will spend the money.
Okay, and what we're going to do is have 5 in-car cameras which will run continuously and basically tape what's going on in front of a vehicle?
That's correct.
I've seen this in operation, and those cameras really are a wonderful way to capture anything that's going on in front of the police car in terms of evidence and things of that nature.
Yes,
It's
sir.
also a good safety item as well.
Move the authorization?
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's it for public safety.
Public Works and Engineering?
Yes, we're an announcement of our 2009 resurfacing program. The list of streets that we're going to pave for 2009 are Biddulph Road, North Ithan Avenue, Treon Lane, Old Oaks Road, Fox Run Lane, Mill Road, South Aberdeen, Gallagher, Ashwood, Hilldale, and Radnor Street Road. We're going to be bidding this with Middletown Townships, and I guess the opening bid date is April 21st. So I'll move the approval that we, well, I guess it's just an announcement. I don't have to move anything? Okay, that's just an announcement, so everybody knows. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the award of bid to purchase of turf products. We rebid out the turf, and the low bidders, the low bid seed, Fisher & Sons for $35,597, low bid fertilizer, Natural Gardens and Lawn for $28,082, and the low bid for organic biostimulant, Fisher & Son, $9,840, for a total of $73,879. And I'll move the approval.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll second it, but I had a question for
Yep.
Bill.
Is that a second? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I said
I'll second it.
And I
You
have
can
a
ask,
question
yeah.
for Bill. Bill, it looks like after rebidding it, we wind up spending approximately $13,000 more than if we had approved what was presented last month. Any sense as to why? I mean,
To be honest, Kevin, I don't have a sense of why, other than Paul Totero put together the bid spec. We took all the field tabulations as far as square footage, came up with the amount of seed, the amount of fertilizer that we thought we needed to do the job, and they're the numbers you're looking at. Those bid prices are based on the quantities that we gave them.
Okay.
I have a question also. Bill, do we, this bid that we're going to vote on, is this all-inclusive for the entire season then? Or is?
Yes, this is the whole year, and the prices that we have on the seed and the fertilizer, due to the late start of the program, we may not be purchasing all of the needed materials, so some of these numbers may be lower. The numbers are set up to lock in for a price on a bag of seed, a price on a bag of fertilizer, and also on the 55-gallon drum of Trilogy, and we don't have to purchase everything all at once. We do have the open end to get what we need for our program.
Any other discussion? Just so I'm clear, it says at the bottom here, after careful review, it's recommended the board award the fertilizer to Natural Gardens and Lawns for the price of $28,082.44, and the seed and biostimulant to Fisher & Son for the price of $45,437. Okay. So the total that we're authorizing is the $73,000, is that it?
That's correct, Tom.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's it, under Public Works.
Old business? Hearing none. Any new business?
Yeah, I'd like to at least kick off a discussion, given where we ended up tonight. It leads me to think that there, at least it deserves a look as to whether we have a systemic/structural problem in how we're organized or how the charter is drafted. Different folks have different interpretations of what the role of the treasurer is. Is he a tax collector? Is he as an independent check on the township? We have a finance organization that reports up through the township manager. And I'd like to ask John, and I don't know what a reasonable timeline is, maybe by September. I don't know. but I'm willing to be flexible on the timeline. But I'd like to at least have an understanding as to whether or not we should take certain steps such that the events over the last, 3-4 months would not happen like this in the future, so that we can get better access to information if questions get asked and we don't get the right answers. I'd like to see, again, some kind of recommendation. And maybe the status quo is perfectly fine, but I'd like you guys to start the process of at least taking a look at it to see if there are steps we should take to make it clear. Because I don't want to be sitting out there 20 years from now and seeing 7 people sitting up here living through what we lived through for the last few months again. I'd like to see if it got cut off early.
Is your question, should we open up the charter and have it reviewed and look at the document as a document? Is that your question?
My question is open-ended. That could be one of the options.
Right. Because that's come up, and, with all due respect to the document, it was conceived in 1974 or something like that, and things have changed a little bit since 1974, me included.
Yeah, I don't disagree. My question,
that may be the way to start looking at it. I mean, that's the document that controls the way we govern this organization.
Many
communities, we didn't invent the home rule charter here as much as some people like to think. Many communities update it regularly and continue to change on it. There was no internet, there was no email, there were many, many things that have changed since then. And that's really the discussion that you need to have. I mean, and then, when you talk about checks and balances within the internal government here, it's all got to be driven by that document.
I think it just all needs to be looked at.
I agree.
Well, that's true, but that's going to require a referendum, and
Correct.
I don't think we want to wait until we can get a referendum to a vote by the public. We talked about internal controls that we should have in place. I think I'd like to hear from John and John. What internal controls that we presently have that we can reinvigorate, and then what can we do outside of the charter to better define the roles and responsibilities of the treasurer? I believe we can do something like a resolution even to better define the roles and responsibilities. And the third option is a need for a finance commission. We have a lot of boards and commissions in this township, and I personally think that we need a finance commission that's made up of staff members, maybe a commissioner, and members of the public at large. I think that's one way to drive better fiscal decisions and get more input, another set of eyes on the finances, because quite frankly, we still have a lot of data in front of us, and there's only so much time in the day to go through all that data. So a set of trained eyes as a commission that could meet on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, would be a good idea. That's just my thought on it. I like the idea of a referendum to change the home rule charter. I think there are a lot of things that need to be changed or improved, but I don't know if that's really the role of this board necessarily.
My opinion is let those guys go through it, come up with some options, come up with some recommendations, come back with a timeline, which you guys think is reasonable. Again, I don't know if September is too long, too short, but I'd like you guys to come back to us with some options as to what you think is the options we have available and make a recommendation as to what you think is the best course of action. Perhaps there's a course of action in the short term and a course of action in the long term.
Well, I sort of view the charter as our local constitution, if you will. Everything that we do comes out of that particular document. And when you sit down and read it, you can see that it's a document it's a very good document, don't get me wrong, but it was created back in the 70s, as I recall, and municipal government has changed dramatically in the last 35 years. And I think it might be time for a fresh look at the document, like Enrique had suggested, and it was put together by some kind of a commission or group that basically set up the document, then it went to a referendum. So I think it's probably a document whose time has come and gone, and we probably need to see a total fresh look at it. So I would think something along those lines would be something I'd be looking for.
I've got just a couple short comments, just on the charter. Kevin, I've been keeping a list of things that I've run across in the charter that are what I would view as outdated when I compare it against the second-class township code, which is most of the townships in this state, and the first-class township code, which is what Radnor is, with the charter on top of it. And just two examples, quick examples. Your bidding requirements. You have a $3,000 threshold, which forces you, and the second-class township code is $10,000, and there's a couple bills that are trying to raise that to $25,000. A lot of municipalities are doing internet bidding and other types of things. So you're sort of hamstrung by just that low threshold, which means that you've got to put an ad in the newspaper for anything over $3,000. I mean, that's an ongoing expense that you're going to have going forward. That's one example. The other thing that I think that I've noticed is you have provisions in your charter and in some other ordinances that are inconsistent with the municipality's planning code when it comes to zoning. And so there's a couple, I mean, there are a couple of things that have jumped out at me. I'm keeping in the back of my charter book, back of my charter, a list of things and sections to look at some point, because I assumed that would come up. I think what you've got, your administrative code and your other ordinances are good, and they're certainly, you can operate under those. I'm not sure there's a substantial change that needs to be made, but I do believe that there's some specifics that need to be spelled out so everyone understands what the codes say, what you can and can't do, and how the staff needs to operate, and the manager needs to operate, and the solicitor needs to operate going forward under those other codes. And John and I have talked about it, and we're going to continue to talk about some things like that going forward over the next 3 or 4 months will provide. I plan to provide some comments to the board.
So, based on your comments, September is a reasonable time frame.
I would think so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other new business? Any public participation?
Hello, my name's Paul Perot. I've been a Radnor resident for 50 years, and I also own a business in Wayne. And over the last several months, a lot has come before the township. So in listening to everything that's happened, I just have questions, and I don't know if they're questions that are relevant or not. But like one is, does the township have an error and omission insurance policy to cover township employees, such as the township manager or possibly the township solicitor? Has anyone ever heard of an error and omission insurance
Yes.
policy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have
Do we have
appropriate
one?
insurance. Yes, we do.
So if the township manager or different employees didn't fulfill obligations, can we recoup some money?
We're looking into that.
Okay. The other is, I imagine you're looking into it, but has the board determined whether the township manager, Mr. Bayshore, or the township solicitor, Mr. Blake, have they fulfilled their legal obligations to factually report to the Board of Commissioners on all of the township documentations that are required for operation? I mean, we've talked about Mr. Bayshore, but I have questions about Mr. Blake. Did he report to the board and to the township manager what he needed to report and advise? I mean, we let the solicitor, I think, resign, but are we looking into any further actions about him?
As far as I know, he worked with his staff, had meetings. We got a weekly report on his activities, and
But
he was
did he
directed by the
really
board.
fulfill his obligations to report to Mr. Bayshore as to what he needed to report to the board and things like that?
Well,
He's the township solicitor.
He gave a detailed report, and he's continuing to work with our new interim solicitor as to what he was working on, what's still going on. And I guess to answer the question, as far as we know, I guess
He
we could,
fulfilled all his legal obligations
as far as we
to
know.
the township.
Would you agree, John?
Well, I've been on the job a month, so.
Right.
Mr. Blake's been helpful. He's asked or answered all the questions I have. There's still a few matters he's working on. What he did in the past, going back over the last, 7 or 8 years, I mean, I can't really give an opinion on that. But, I mean, it's been a pretty smooth transition, in my view, from Mr. Blake to my office, and he continues to work with me. So I have no complaints about the transition or the cooperation from him in the time that I've been here.
Okay. I think at one point the special counsel stated that the township had been in violation of state and federal laws with regard to payment to township employees. If that's the case, does the township know how many years we've been in violation of these state and federal laws? And does the township have to take any action to address these past violations?
Well, we found out about them, and we've taken action to eliminate them so that we're in compliance.
Okay, but what about past violations? Do we have to address
Well,
what's happened in the past?
No, it was just that the federal government or state, they could have came and they could have, told us we were doing it wrong. They could have fined us or something, but we corrected it before we found it on our own
Okay.
and corrected it.
If the township funds were illegally dispensed in violation of the state and federal laws, is there a legal responsibility by the township to reinstate those funds back into the township budget since they were taxpayers' money?
That's a legal question, I guess, right, John? And I don't know the answer.
Pretty broad and general legal question. I think the issue is the Fair Labor Standards Act, which, and again, most of this occurred before my tenure here, but my understanding is not that what was going on was illegal, that it was inconsistent with how the FLSA is usually dealt with overtime and comp time. They're the issues, I think, that Mr. Morris brought up in the past. At this point, I think there's been some new policies the board's adopted dealing with that going forward. I don't think we'd be looking at any point reinstating funds. They're funds that have been paid out to employees.
But if they were illegally
Well, no, they weren't illegally.
Yeah, I think you're using, I'm not sure I agree that it was illegal or he said it was illegal. I think that there's some inconsistency under the FLSA. There's some general guidelines for how you accrue comp time and what you have to do in terms of overtime in your work schedule.
We were paying overtime to supervisory employees, and they could lose their right to be a supervisory employee. They could join a union if we continued to pay them overtime. We're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
And it was things like that. It wasn't money that was lost. It was things that...
Not lost, but were they paid when they shouldn't have been paid?
No, they worked the overtime, okay? And that was a policy here. And then they said, no, if they're going to be supervisor, you can't do that. So we stopped that with a supervisory employee as soon as we found out about it.
Okay. My one last question was, if any of the supervisors were paid time and a half for overtime, by any chance were those same employees paid a bonus during the same year? Because they're getting time and a half, and now they're getting bonuses, and bonuses shouldn't have been issued.
Yeah.
I mean, are we able to somehow get money back for that, like for insurance reasons or something?
And we're not going to, my opinion is, I'm not going to, if the manager gave bonuses that I didn't approve, I'm not going to take that out on the employees. That was he shouldn't have done that.
But can the township look for reinstatement from insurance against the township manager or something? I mean, we're out millions of dollars now. You know, if we paid out over $500,000 in bonuses that shouldn't have been issued, that's $500,000 of taxpayers' money that shouldn't have been issued. Aren't we obligated to reinstate that money to the taxpayers? Someone made a mistake. You know, if I mispay a bill, they can come after me and say, you owe the money back.
Well, aren't we looking into seeing if that insurance is going to cover that? Isn't that part of your first question?
Yeah, we're looking into, and we put on notice the E&O policy carrier. But just to clarify your concern, sir, I think what we're talking about is not something that was done illegally. I think what we're talking about, some decisions that were maybe bad management decisions that this board has now corrected.
Okay, but didn't we just state that Mr. Bayshore illegally gave bonuses?
I think you stated that. I think what this board said tonight and over the course of a couple hours earlier this evening is that this board was not aware of the extent of the bonuses, both to the employees and to himself.
Right, but he wasn't authorized to give them.
That'll
So
be
is that legal or illegal?
that'll be determined by the district attorney.
Okay, so
in some other forum. But
it
it's
will
not going
be
to be
investigated by.
not tonight. It's not going to be determined
I'm
tonight.
just asking
It is being
questions.
investigated by the district attorney,
Are we looking
yes.
into recouping some of this hundreds of thousands of dollars that the taxpayers shouldn't have been paying?
I think the township will always look into recouping any money that was improperly given. But there's some ongoing investigations. Answer to your question is yes. If it can be recouped, it'll be recouped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public participation?
I just like to once again thank the staff, the commissioners, and Dave Bayshore for their service.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to say, I'd like to express my heartfelt empathy, as much as I possibly can empathize, with all the staff, the commissioners, and again, Dave. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Move we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.